dwelling in God's presence. Leviticus 2:1-34, just one thought. In position, battle ready. In position, battle ready. Spence observed, he says, we are continuing to keep in mind that all of these meticulous details are set forth in the light of the final action from the Lord in the use of the silver trumpets. The silver trumpets were instructions to move, instructions for war. We must not lose sight of that final expression through all these matters. Once the princes, under the direction of Moses and Aaron, have completed the numbering of the tribes and the separation of Levi's children for the service of the tabernacle, there must be a careful arrangement made around that tabernacle. So you see how to organize a big group of people, 2 to 3 million of them, and what must be the way by which the nation can function orderly to the glory of God. You'll notice that our God is a God of order, and you would see the mind of God exhibited very clearly here when God showed us how he would organize his nation. You would learn precious lessons, how organization can be made. God being the instructor, and his mind showing us how his nation was made battle ready. And so verse 2 says, every man of the children of Israel shall pitch by his own standard with the ensign of their father's house, far off above the tabernacle of the congregation shall they pitch. So the army gathers themselves, and they will be the front and the rear, and they at the front and the rear of the movement. And you would see how they are to be organized, they will be put in position. Spence, again he observed, they were to pitch at some distance from the tabernacle. To pitch means to camp, to encamp, to sink down, and yet they are to pitch around the tabernacle. So they were to pitch at a distance from the tabernacle, and they were to pitch around the tabernacle. Okay, now remember that the tabernacle is the presence of God. A little later, we shall see that the Levites were actually to pitch their camps on the south, west, north, between the tribes and the tabernacle. So the Levites, the presence of God in the tabernacle, then the Levites were encamped around the tabernacle, then the soldiers were encamped around the Levites, okay, which is surrounding the tabernacle. So you see the layers by which God surrounds himself. A little later, we shall see the Levites actually pitch their camps on the south, west, north, between the tribes and the tabernacle. Moses, Aaron, and the priest were to pitch their camp on the east at the entrance of the tabernacle between the tribes and the tabernacle. Each tribe was to pitch by his own standard. The word standard means banner, with the ensign. Ensign means a sign. Right? So whether they would use something like, we use a little flag hoisted up high and with a certain design on it. Right? So each family will have their own distinct identifying mark. Okay, distinct identifying mark by their own standard or their banner and their ensign of their father's house. And so you see here, Spence, again, he observed well, they must be numbered. They must be by tribes. They must be by family pedigree, right, showing one's birth. They must be pitched in the correct place. They must pitch by their own standard, in other words, by their families. Okay, their standard must be identified with the ensign of their father's house. They must be ready and able to go forth. So, you see, the arrangement for a large group of people requires certain careful design. And the mind of God is clearly shown to us. This is the thought that we want to think about. In position, battle ready. The arrangements around the tabernacle of the tribes commences on the east and moves clockwise in its acknowledgement. So you see here at the back of your notes, you see the familiar picture which we have shown you before in our first message when we begin. Page 6, page 6. Do you see the encampment? What has been described there is placed for us in a pictorial form. Right? The tribes that are surrounding. Oh, sorry, page 4. That's right. Mine is page 6. I'm sorry. Page 4. That's right. Yeah. So in page 4, you would see there the picture. Okay. And so with that in mind, to help us reference, okay, we'd like to notice how the arrangements are made. Right? On the east camps Judah, Issachar, and Zebulun. 3 tribes. Okay, Judah, Issachar, and Zebulun. So you can see them, right? On the east side, you see there Judah, Issachar, and Zebulun. So do you see that? Judah, Issachar, and Zebulun. Right? So it's on the eastern side. They are all the descendants of Leah. Remember the children of Jacob by the 2 wives, the 12 children. So you see here how they are arranged with their respective princes or captains of the. Here is the same word that is used, including Nahshon, Nathaniel, and Eliab, with 186,440 men, which is the entrance of the tabernacle. So at the entrance, you have a big guard, right? A strong guard, right? With a large number, the largest number there, because that is the entrance. So they were to be the guardians of the entrance. Judah, Issachar, and Zebulun, 186,440 men, which is the entrance, and so that's the largest number of soldiers protecting it. And then you see on the south side, you would see Reuben, Simeon, and Gad, with their respective princes, including Eleazar, Shelomiel, and Eliasaph. So these are the other brothers, right? Reuben being the eldest. Reuben is the eldest, the firstborn of Jacob through Leah. Do you see them there? Reuben, Simeon, and Gad. And you would notice also on the western side camps Ephraim, Manasseh, and Benjamin. Now, who are these? These are the sons of Joseph through sons of Joseph, Joseph is mothered through Rachel. Okay, so this is the other. On the west camp, Ephraim and Manasseh, these are the two children of Joseph, and Benjamin. Benjamin, you recall when Benjamin was born, after Benjamin was born, Rachel passed on. Okay, so they were together. Right? So in that sense, they are of the same family. Right? So they are gathered together with their respective princes, including Elishama, Gamaliel, and Abidan. Thus the descendants of Rachel camped together. Okay. On the north camps Dan, Asher, and Naphtali, with their respective princes, including Eliezer and Pagiel and Ahira. Okay, so you see here, whenever the camp moved, this one is describing how they, after they are encamped, they were to activate themselves. And this we observe through Warren Westby. The Ark of the Covenant went before, carried by the priest. Then the tribes of Judah, Issachar and Zebulun marched next, followed by the Gershonites and the Merarites, carrying the tabernacle proper, frames, curtains, coverings. So you see here the Merarites and the Gershonites, you see them there, encamped around closer to the tabernacle, because they will be the one carrying the tabernacle. Right? Whenever they need to move, the tabernacle has to be dismantled. Right? So somebody has to dismantle them, in charge, responsible to carry them. Okay, so there is a well-organized system, right, by which each person knows what they are responsible to do and what they will do for their part, so that the whole nation is engaged to move as God would instruct them. So there is a great order by which the nation is being organized here that you see. When the camp moved, the Ark of the Covenant went before, carried by the priest. Then the tribes of Judah, Issachar, and Zebulun marched next, followed by the Gershonites, the Merarites, carrying the tabernacle proper. So you see the way by which this is done, the way by which the group is organized, the way by which they would move. Next came Reuben, Simeon, and Gad, followed by the Kohathites, carrying the tabernacle furnishings, and Ephraim, Manasseh, and Benjamin were next, while Dan, Asher, and Naphtali brought up the rear. The largest number, 186,440, led the way, and the next largest, 157,600, were the rear guard. So there was a strong army in front. There is also another strong army, those are slightly smaller number, behind the tabernacle when they began to move. The 12 tribes had to be careful not to camp too close to the tabernacle, for that area was reserved for the priests and the Levites. To venture too near to the sacred tent could mean death. Right? So they realized that that's the very presence of God, and God has instructed the Levites to make sure that there is a safe distance. Basically, is to protect the sanctity of the place. That it is not it is not desecrated by those who doesn't understand the honor of God, doesn't give due honor to the God in His presence and His holiness. Okay. Also, each tribe was to display its stand and each family its banner. So here, the Lord wants us to see and understand how this is done, right? Of course, then the question is asked, what about the standard, the ensign? What about the sign that is above? What is the sign? Here it is observed that there is not really clear description of what they will be, what the signs are, but there are some suggestions in the Jewish tradition. They would have the various colors for the various tribes. Well, there are commentators who said that the colors of these tribal banners or emblems is not given in Scripture, so it's useless to make any guess. There are those who also observed that, for each of the tribe, they are represented by a type of precious stones, a precious stone that is on the breastplate of the high priest. So what is the precious stone that is given there for the various tribes? It's given there as the standard of green, right, on the east, emerald, the green stone, that the name of Judah was engraved upon the breastplate of the high priest. And upon this standard was a lion, according to the words of Jacob. Judah is a lion's whelp. And towards the south, the son of Reuben floated a red standard, color of sardius, the stone upon which the standard was a human head, because Reuben was the head of the family. And Reuben, we saw in Exodus, behold a son, typical of him, the Son of Man. On the west, above the tent of Elishama, the flag of the head of a calf, the calves or oxen that Joseph had predicted and provided for a famine in Egypt. And hence Moses, when blessing the tribe of Joseph, Deuteronomy 38:17, said, his glory is that of the firstborn of a bull. Toward the north, above the tent of Ahiezer, the son of Dan, which floated the standard of red and white, like the jasper, in which the name of Dan was graven upon the breastplate. In this standard was an eagle, the great foal of serpents, because Jacob had compared Dan to a serpent, but Ahiezer had substituted the eagle, the destroyer of serpents. So here, as he's, and this is quoted from the Annotated Bible by A.C. Gabelin. And so, what will it be? We do not know, but certain symbols are indeed used in the Bible. In Ezekiel's vision, he saw of the wheel, he saw the symbol of the lion, the man, the ox, and the eagle. And also in the book of Revelation, the Apocalypse, the four living beasts also has the face of a lion, the face of man, face of an ox, and the flying eagle. So are these symbols depicted of the heavenly symbols that we see in God's throne, right, surrounding God's throne, the angels surrounding God's throne. We do see some description of it. So this is what the Lord has planned, arranged for His people as they become battle ready. So each time the Lord gives the instruction, right, through the cloud and the fire, they are to march and they were to move. So you would see that, sometimes we said there are some drills, practice, So if they have to do that often, right, to take down and camp, they would become familiar with their positions. They would become familiar with their roles. They would know how to move with the instruction that God would give them. And so you see there is that preparation, okay, that is going on here. So the book of Numbers speak of the second year after they came out of Egypt, the second month when God instructed them, right after the writing of the book of Leviticus, which we have covered, for them to actually move, right? In the book of Exodus, we saw how God gave the blueprint for the making of the tabernacle and the actual construction of the tabernacle and the commissioning of the tabernacle, right? So and that signifies the presence of God with them, right? With the Ark of the Covenant and with all the other stuff that were made that were placed in the table that they have constructed. Remember the table of showbread, the altar, the ark, the lamb, and this is a picture that shows us how God leads. Whether it is a picture of the heavenly scene, right, in an earthly description, it is for us to learn and know of God's presence with His people and how He organizes His army in protection of His people, right? Because you remember the soldiers are the men who are drafted to become their first standing army. They were to protect all the vulnerable ones, including their cattle and their flocks. So all their families, the wives and the children. And so this was how the nation was organized, with God as their leader. Right? What a blessed thing it is to dwell in the presence of God, right? To know of God's instructions for our to organize our life, right? This life that we are living in, as Wesby said, we are observed well. He says that we are like a pilgrim people following the Lord. His glory at the heart of everything, His presence leading the way. Israel was one people, united in the Lord and to each other. Yet each separate company was recognized by God, displayed by its own unique banner, occupied its own special place, and marched at the Lord's command. Thank God for His grace in showing us His mind, that we can learn what the mind of God, and we receive from Him wisdom and instruction for life. May the Lord help us. Amen.